start. Let's see if this thing works. I kind of enjoyed doing it last time. It's a little bit of a different setup, I know. Lighting is not fantastic, but who cares? You guys know what I look like. You don't need that. Let's just tweet it out. Hey, the internet can see me now. Great. Cool. Make sure it's monetized. Yes, thank you, YouTube. Why would they have that off by default? I never understood in the live streaming settings they leave off monetization by default. Like, what? Why is that an optional thing? It's like, if the channel's monetized, yeah, would you like to make money or not make money? Nah, you know what? Let's just leave it off for no reason. Hello, people. Hello. Thomas, Tony, Chris, Josh, Samuel, Scott. Happy Tuesday. I'm streaming for no reason. Welcome. I just had a little bit of time before my day wraps up. I just finished editing today's EV video, Tech Vids Up, and I was like, oh, what to do. You know what? I enjoyed that last little talk stream we had, so I don't know if I'm going to be live for a full hour, but I just figured you guys ask whatever. Yes, to those who hadn't catched it, please check out Randy Vasquez just posted a new song he made. It sounded fantastic. He sung it, and he also recorded it and did the instruments and the drums. He did all of it through and through, I believe. And he did a fantastic job. So shout out to Randy. Let's see. Thanks for connecting with the fans. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for tuning in. We can talk about whatever you want. Randy's song was awesome. Thank you, Nathan. What is an iPhone? That is a great question. An iPhone is something everyone gets mad about and buys every year. That's essentially what an iPhone is. Do you believe ARM processors will decrease Mac prices? I think they will decrease. They will decrease the higher spec Mac prices. I don't expect them to decrease the starting price Mac prices. I think basically where MacBooks start price-wise today, they will stay, but the amount you'll have to spend to get higher spec MacBooks will go down. So you won't have to spend $6,000 on a MacBook Pro to get stellar performance. That's what I'm guessing. What monitor do you use with the Mac Mini? Oh, have you guys not seen behind me? I realize I might not have talked about this yet. There is a giant 50-inch TV on this tiny desk that is rocking the Mac Mini right now. And that is my current Mac Mini setup. There's a bit of a long story there. So I have 3 monitors now, 2 27-inch ones, one that's 32 inches, none of them being used. You can see 2 of them right here. They're just on the floor. Another one in the closet. The cinema display is in the closet. And, well, essentially, my wife's been working from home for the past few months, and she sits at a desk, obviously, and she's required to use this Chromebook from her work. She can't use anything else. Don't believe me, I tried. If we wanted her to use the Mac Mini or a Mac of some kind, I would have let her, but she can't. They require her to use this stupid, tiny, slow, laggy Chromebook, and it kind of works, but it loses internet connection sometimes, which I think is messed up. I think they should let her use a different machine, but essentially, for a while she sat on the couch, for a while she sat at the kitchen table, but nothing she got was really very comfortable because, of course, she's working many hours a day. So I said, hey, honey, how about I'll let you borrow my streaming desk setup so that you can have something a bit more official. So we moved the streaming desk, which was a little white table, into the bedroom where she's working out of now. And she does have an external monitor that's kind of small, but it makes sense for her workflow. She doesn't really need a bigger one because it wouldn't really fit on that desk anyway. Yes, I watched the SpaceX launch. The Falcon landed. Yes, they recovered the rocket. It went well. Anyway, so because of that, I don't have the big streaming desk I used to have. So I decided to put it on this tiny little white like coffee table that we had in the living room that she was like, hey, you can use this. And I was like, you know what? Pretty much all I do at the streaming desk anyway is start the live stream, and then I let go, and then I just talk to this camera, this Pocket Cinema right here. I just talk to it. So I don't really need a bunch of, like, if I was editing videos, obviously, yes, this desk setup would be horrible. But the 50-inch TV was basically the only monitor we had available at the time that we set that up. I guess I could put a smaller monitor on there now, but it would actually make when I'm managing the live stream and I have the chat in OBS, I can just put it on the top of the TV, and it's much easier to see. Whereas if I put it on a monitor, it would be much down low, and I have to read things like that. It'd just be harder to use. So that's why the Mac Mini setup looks so bizarre right now. Is Big Sur stable enough? I've had some pretty bad bugs so far. Oh, sorry. Soul Rack, thank you for the super chat. It says, do you have iOS 14 Beta 1? I do. I'm running it on the iPhone. iOS 14 Dev Beta is the only beta so far I would say is fine to work with. macOS Big Sur had a pretty major bug that resulted in the Mac Mini not outputting any video. So as soon as you entered your password and hit enter, then you could see the visuals. But other than that, yeah, I try to watch every single SpaceX rocket launch. I think they're really, really cool. Nick has experimented with a Talos of Space podcast as well as a YouTube channel. If there was more time in the day, and you know, if every day was 36 hours long, I would love to make more Talos of Space content and just kind of talk about what their developments are going on with Boca Chica and the Starship production, as well as covering the Falcon launches and Starlink. I'm really interested in what SpaceX is doing. I just really don't have the time in the day to cover them. Someday, maybe when we have the budget or resources to hire an editor and we can work on other things like that, maybe. Scott Sullivan, how's it going? Says, what configuration Tesla would you get? Oh man, I can't really decide. Honestly, I've started looking at a lot of the used inventory they have on their website, and there's some really good deals there. I don't really need the Tesla to be brand new. I'm not adamant that I need to get a car new, because that's honestly like one of the worst financial choices you can make. Even if it's a cool car like a Tesla, pretty much any vehicle you buy, with a handful of exceptions, most of the time any vehicle you buy will go down in value over time, and it's one of the most expensive things we can buy these days, whether it be a car, things like houses. You buy a house that more than likely is going to go up in value. With a small handful of exceptions, most of the time the property value will go up over time. So buying a house is not a terrible investment, whereas buying a car, yeah, it's not a great move. So finding a decent deal on a Tesla would not be a bad idea in my mind. I've seen some great deals on some used Model S's, to be honest, and I've got, of course, my used Model S on the desk at all times. But there were some Model S's I found that were in the like low 40s that came with free supercharging for life. For life. So I thought those were pretty decent deals. Yeah, obviously they got some miles on them. There's some battery degradation in there, but you can replace the battery eventually. So, yeah. Let's see. Anti-Apple people always cherry pick anything bad about Apple. Oh, yes, we know that. At least what color would you want? Again, it's not. Ideally, I think the red colors look great, but I don't want to spend $2,000 on it. I'm in love with the white Model Y. I think that design looks great. If the standard range Model Y comes out and it's $41K, that would be solid. I would like that one. They all look great. I'm not really that picky with the configuration. All I really care about with eventually getting one is that it has full self-driving technology. I don't even need to have that with the car. Like, as long as the car has the hardware for full self-driving, I don't mind spending $8,000 on the software. I'll do that. Horrible financial choice. I agree, but it's more for selfish reasons I'm doing it. How many channels are in your network? Too many, Alpha. Way too many. There's not that many active ones. I would say there's like 3 active ones. The most active being Tech and EV. Third being Talks. Occasionally I do gaming, not that much. But then we have the main channel where we do comedy sketches, but COVID canceled all those plans. We have movie reviews, which I just uploaded a video to, which we've also not been super active with. We've never really been that active with movie reviews, but I don't mind. My goal with the network is not to make every single channel super active. My goal is to just have a place for every type of content I feel like producing. So one morning, Dan texted me and was like, hey, we haven't talked in a while, and I think it'd be cool to do like a recap video on what we've been watching, because most of what we do on movie reviews is talking about movies that are out, that we go out into the theater and watch, and obviously that hasn't been happening much recently, but we've all been watching content on streaming services. So we watched a bunch of stuff and just decided to talk about it together. And I had fun editing it, and the people who watched it, while it may not be as many as Tech or EV, they said they enjoyed it. So, yes, the food channel is a joke, but it is a serious joke. Tech Enthusiast Super Chat, it says, love your videos during Quadruple UTC. I was hoping to see stuff for iPadOS taking advantage of the LiDAR, but we got nothing. What do you think Apple will do? My prediction is LiDAR... I think LiDAR is going to help mostly with the development of the glasses, as well as we'll see more use cases for it with the iPhones, and they'll showcase some type of video bokeh or portrait mode enhancements that is capable with LiDAR. So I think they'll showcase more with the iPhones than the iPad, but I wasn't personally. Some people were expecting there to be some LiDAR features with the developer conference, but I wasn't anticipating any. I thought if there was anything big coming to LiDAR, it would be saved for the iPhone 12. That's my guess. But thank you for the super chat. I have not seen Parasite, but I've heard great things about it. The thing is, we're trying to be very financially conscious these days, so we're not renting anything. We're not buying any movies or anything like that. We're basically just watching what we have available on the streaming services that we already have. So I haven't... If it comes to something that I'm currently subscribed to, I would love to watch it. But I've heard great things about Parasite. I want to see it, though. Let's see. Is it possible to install macOS Big Sur with Catalina in the same drive so I can dual boot? Yeah, you can obviously, Boot Camp, you can install Big Sur if you've got the storage space for it. I just didn't. I don't have the spare storage space on my iMac Pro because every gig I have I'm utilizing for work and videos, because when you're producing 2 videos a day and they both are 4K at 60, it uses up a lot of space. But yeah, I'm excited to see Parasite eventually. Did you watch Can You Trust Tailosive Tech? I have not recently. I don't really remember much of it, but I believe the conclusion was yes, you could. But yeah, at one point I did see Can You Trust Tailosive Tech. I've seen a lot of Tailosive Tech exposed or response to Tailosive Tech videos. Some good, some bad. But overall, I like seeing YouTubers make videos about me. In fact, it's kind of interesting when I'll make a point in a video and people really, really disagree with it, and they will write like an entire book in the comment section. And I honestly think YouTube shouldn't allow that. I think there should be a character limit on comments, because when people write these like giant essays, it's like, I'm not going to spend the time to read every single one of these things. Comments, in my opinion, should be somewhat similar to tweets. Maybe not that much of a character limit. I was thinking like 1,000 or 2,000 characters per comment. Not like 200. I think that would be too low, but it feels like that's what most comments are. But I feel like if you want to say that much in a single comment, you should just make a video. I want to see more people. If you disagree with me, great, let's talk. Let's hear your arguments. But I love it when another content creator is like, it just feels kind of surreal, because you can get caught up in the YouTube space when you're making videos and stuff. You get caught up in, you're just interacting with text, you're just interacting with commenters and tweets and stuff like that. But once you actually see another human being saying your name and explaining your argument and why it's wrong, it's like, whoa, this is kind of real. This is kind of trippy. I kind of like that. So if you guys disagree with me, I heavily encourage you to make videos about it, as long as it's respectful. I mean, obviously, I don't encourage people that are just like, you're an idiot, shut up, I hate you. I don't like that. But if it's productive and it can stay on topic and not get personal, it's great. I love those kinds of videos. Let's see. Jonathan Dean super chatted, thank you. Says, have you ever thought about playing World of Warcraft? I haven't really caught up in that game. I know a lot of people who do play it, but it was just never really something that I was attracted to. Most of those like top-down style games, I guess I played a bit of Age of Empires growing up, but I never really got into that. I know there's a huge fan base for it. There's a huge demographic, but I don't really spend that much time gaming. Thomas super chatted, says, will Apple Silicon chips be good for gaming? They won't be bad for gaming. I think a lot of people misunderstand the point that the reason Macs aren't good for gaming is not because of the hardware. It's not because they don't choose the right GPUs or CPUs. It's because game devs don't like optimizing their games for Macs. There's lots of GPU and software Apple puts in their Macs to play games well. There's just not much of a gaming community around Macs. So game developers don't optimize their games for Mac that well. So even if Apple Silicon is great for gaming, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the game devs are suddenly going to optimize their games for Mac. It won't hurt because Apple Silicon is basically going to be better CPU performance, lower power consumption, better GPU performance overall. So in the end, it just means Macs are going to be better in every category. They should get cheaper, they should get better performance, they should run cooler, they should have better graphics. It won't make gaming any worse, but I don't think anything necessarily is going to drastically change in the gaming field. Solrak, thank you for the super chat. Says, I wanted to know if you were able to check some features in GarageBand by using VoiceOver with iOS 14 because I am blind to see if it works. Can you do it? I don't think I have GarageBand on my phone. I don't have the space actually. This is this is actually running into a problem. I don't need GarageBand, but I wish someone could help you. Yeah, I don't. My phone's always full. It's all. I never had 64 gigs as a problem with my phone until we started doing the video tech podcast. Because now every week we're recording 2.5 hours worth of video with our iPhones, and that's taking up way more space than it used to. So I think my next iPhone I'll have to get more storage. But sorry, I can't test that for you. I apologize. Used is now 35K in long range for that price. Yeah, I've seen some good used Teslas. I don't have a number for you. I don't have a timeline exactly for you because it's just simply not a good. It's not a good time, and we are someone was asking earlier if we were investing in stocks. We are starting to get a little bit involved with the stock market. I'm very inexperienced with it, so I would not make videos about my advice or things I would recommend you do, other than the basic stuff, which is just, in my opinion, best way to handle the stock market is to buy and hold for the longest amount of time you can. I'm not interested in buy and selling within a single year because I don't want them capital gains tax, and your average your chances of returning on your investment are much higher if you just buy stock and hold it for a long time. And no, my audio should be coming from my Zoom H6 microphone, not the AirPods. I don't even know why I have these in. I was just editing videos today, so that's why I had AirPods in, but these aren't actually doing anything. Do you think our Macs will be closer to Intel Macs or iPad Pros? It's the best of both. They'll be better than the iPad Pro CPUs. Much better. Oh, Alex, I do delete the footage I don't need anymore immediately. Basically, as soon as a video is published and put online, that's when I delete the footage. But I don't delete the finalized videos because YouTube has been known to take stuff down without warning, and I want to have a backup just in case. They don't take up much space, but when you do 2 of them a day, it will fill up your drives pretty quickly. What happened to the Tailosive app? So yeah, I was not... I was like overseeing that project very briefly, but I wasn't really in charge of it. It wasn't really my idea at all. I've answered this a few times in a few live streams, but essentially a team of developers came to me, started out as just one guy, and he said, I want to make an app for the Tailosive network. Are you okay with that? And I said, yeah, sure, go ahead. As long as you can build it in a way that people can watch content and I can still get reimbursed for it, because I didn't want to make, just an app that let people pirate my content. So I was like, yeah, as long as we build some kind of monetization service into it so that I can get reimbursed for the time people spend on the app, then sure. And they showed me the concepts of how it worked and how it would flow. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's cool. Go ahead. But as it turns out, making a YouTube replacement is much more difficult than the developers originally realized. And there were issues with the uploader, because originally it was just pulling the videos off YouTube, and then they realized that if they wanted to monetize the app, then they couldn't pull videos from YouTube. So they couldn't find an easy way for it to work, and basically it's been on a perpetual hold. And all of those app developers, they're not full-time developers. They all have other things in their life going on. And they were getting really stressed about timelines and when it needs to get out and how to release it. And I just told them, like, hey, don't stress about it, because Tailosive doesn't need an app. It's not crucial for us to have an app. If you can make it and it works, great. But if you can't make it happen, don't worry about it. I'm still proud of what they created. They did a good job, but they were still ultimately new to the field, and there was a lot of things they learned in the process. But I don't know if it's coming out. It's kind of up to them. So I would say at this point, don't count on it. It's not on the App Store anymore, just because they couldn't get my videos to show up in there anyway. And there were a lot of issues with the uploader that they sent to me to upload apps. So I basically was like, tell me what to do and I'll do it. But yeah, at this point, I would say don't expect it. Nathan asks, how do you like playing tennis? I started playing during quarantine and it's really fun and I'm getting decent at it. Yeah, we're going to play tennis after work today. I'm excited to play. How do I like it? I like it a lot because it's definitely kind of a, what do you call it, sprint activity where you work really, really hard in short bursts. It's not that much of an endurance sport. I guess if you get a really, really good rally going, it can be an endurance sport. But my wife was on the tennis team in high school, so she has experience with it, and she whoops me. I cannot beat her. She just keeps winning every single game. Occasionally I win. I think the last set of matches we did, it was like 5-1, so she won 5 games and I won 1 game, but it was always close. I'm getting better. At first I really sucked at serving, but now I'm picking up on serving. I'm getting a little bit better at that. So I think I think I'm improving a little bit game after game, but for the most part, it's just nice to have something to go do out of work that doesn't cost anything, because that's important to us. We don't want to pay for the gym, and we don't want to spend money doing some type of activity. So tennis costs us nothing because we already had tennis balls and tennis rackets. We get to exercise. We get to go outside. There's a place that we get to go to. It's like a public tennis court, and there's almost no one there. There's almost no one ever shows up there, and obviously we get to be social distance. There's been a few people that have showed up to the tennis courts, but we're far apart from each other, so we don't have to wear a mask, and we play, and it's just fun. I enjoy it. Let's see. Aluminum super chat. It says, what are your thoughts on the upcoming, oh my god, such a tongue twister, WH-1000 XM4, and got it compared to Beats Pro or the upcoming AirPod headphones? Look, I'm not an audiophile. I think these basic AirPods sound great. I love using them every single day because they're convenient. So I've just discovered I am not the kind of guy that will be able to give you in-depth reviews on sound quality when it comes to over-ear headphones. I've not tried the Sonys, and I don't plan to. I actually am not a big fan of over-ear headphones because of how they make my hair feel. I love using earbuds just because of how small and compact they are, and when they go in the ear, you kind of forget they're there. So I'm not an audio quality guy, which is why I don't have much thoughts on those. I've heard great things about the Sonys. I'm sure they're great, but I've also heard great things about the Beats Pro, and I'll try out the AirPod Studio when they come out, but I don't expect me to have much info on them that's unique, because I can't really tell much difference in audio quality. Do you see there being a time where you would consider getting an office? So that's a long story, Dan. I had an office for a while. Maybe you're new and you didn't know that. Basically, there was the attic days, if we're going back through Talos of history here. The attic days was me living in the attic, which was of my parents' house. I was basically born there. They bought the house when I was 3 months old. So I lived there my entire life. And I lived there until September of 2017, which was about 3 months. I started doing YouTube full-time in May of 2017. So there was a few months in there where I was still living at home, but I was doing YouTube full-time. That didn't last long, because once the revenue was starting to pick up for the YouTube channels, I was like, okay, I'm working out of the attic. I'm doing everything off of my phone's hotspot because I did not have good Wi-Fi there. So I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, the Wi-Fi at our house was so bad that they canceled it. My parents canceled it because it was just garbage. And I was doing live streams and uploading all of my YouTube videos as a full-time creator off of my phone's personal hotspot. That's how everything was being managed. And I was like, okay, this is dangerous. Like, if my phone was broken or my phone was fried, I couldn't work. I couldn't do full-time work. So I was immediately like, we need to find a place where I can work from and actually have decent internet. So it was September of 2017. I called it Project Newport, where I moved into a decent-sized office space for a reasonable price. It wasn't anything super fancy. And it was probably I want to say it was like 500, 600 square feet, which was a big upgrade from the attic, and I could actually get, decent Wi-Fi there. So that was the first move. And then the landlord wanted that space for somebody else, so offered me a really good deal in a much larger space, which became Project 2X, that was a big office. That was about uh, maybe like 900 to 1,000 square feet. That was a lot bigger. It was definitely probably twice what I was paying at the first office, which in hindsight I shouldn't have taken it because I could have. He didn't force us out. I could have just stayed where I was and saved a lot more money that way, but I didn't just because I was like, oh yeah, we're expanding. I want more space and I want to have a bigger office and more computers and that kind of thing. So I was not smart and I decided, you know what? He's offering me a good deal on this new space. So I'm gonna up my rent and pay more, and I did for quite a while. I was in 2X for 15 months, I think. I was in there from January 2018 till April of 2019. So I guess that was more like 16 months. I was in there for a long time, and the reason we moved out was I realized I was spending a whole ton of money on my video backgrounds, and that was not what most of my viewers were appreciating about me. I was like, what do you guys like about Taylosive? And they were like, I like your thoughts, I like the style, I like the editing, or I like the way you cover news and the consistency about it. And I was like, okay, so none of this has to do with my background, and I'm spending the majority of my income, well, not the majority of my income, but the biggest expense, because I was spending thousands and $1,000s a month on the air conditioning, the Wi-Fi there, and the rent. And I realized after a while that all of that rent is going nowhere, whereas you could be putting that kind of money towards, property that you could eventually own outright. And it turned out that our plan of saving up for a house and not renting, thousands of dollars a month was a much better idea, because here we are, June, end of June, beginning of July 2020, house has been paid off. So for the past three months, I haven't had rent, I haven't had a mortgage. So our monthly expenses have been lower than ever. I don't think my monthly expenses have been as low since the attic days. As in, like, when I first moved out of my parents' house, monthly expenses were higher than they were now. And of course now, with the success of the network and how Taylosive EV and Taylosive Tech is doing, breaking new records and hitting new milestones, I'm making more than I ever had before and spending less than I have in years, which puts us in a great spot financially. So that just came from a lot of rethinking, because I think a lot of content creators and a lot of YouTubers assume when they're growing and they're getting more and more revenue, they're just like, oh, well, I need to hire people, I need a bigger office, I need to do this and I need to do that. And it turns out you really don't. You can live within your means and be a lot smarter with your money. And in the long term, you'll be very grateful you did, because you won't have to lose that much control over your content, which I'm very proud to say, still haven't had to do any sponsored videos, which it feels like everybody's doing sponsored videos these days. It's hard to find a YouTuber that doesn't. And I'm still able to create the content I want to make. I don't have to sell out to some MCN. I don't have to become part of a bigger studio that tells me how to do my job or tells me how to podcast or some licensing deal or something like that. So of course we built up our emergency fund, and now we're investing in stocks and retirement accounts so that we can be financially independent at a very young age. Yeah, you don't think anyone would like to sponsor me anyway. I wish I could show you how many offers I get. I get about 5 emails a day of people that are trying to sponsor me, but I don't have to. I get to just say no to all of them, which is nice. Let's see. What are the main editing machines you had over the years? First one was a 2011 iMac 21.5-inch. It was fairly high spec. I think it had like 2 terabytes of hard drives in it. And I think it had a quad i7 core. And I had that for a while. And then I actually edited a bunch of my videos on the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. The first iPad Pro, the one that came out in 2015. I edited some of the first successful Taylosive Tech videos on that iPad with an Apple Pencil. So I'm really happy to say that the iPad was kind of the launching place for the whole network at the beginning. But after a while, once it became more of a full-time gig and I was doing it more professionally, then yeah, that's when I got the 2016 15-inch MacBook Pro. Used that for about a year. Yeah, because I bought it in 2016 and then I used it primarily until I bought the iMac Pro, which I'm using right now, at the end of 2017. And that's pretty much been my main editing rig ever since then. Let's see. Yeah. Sign up for insert random VPN company here and use the code I pay too much on junk to get 20% off. Exactly, Scott. Thank you. I don't know why Scott's not a moderator. I'll make him a moderator. Let's see. Why doesn't Apple just keep all the stock icons the same across the board? I don't know. You guys act like I invented Apple here. How do you feel Apple will tackle the public watchOS beta since it's difficult to fix it? Something messes up. I don't know how they'll handle it, but I think they're feeling better about it this year. watchOS has been mostly stable for me. The only issue I've had with watchOS 7 is the battery life isn't great. I feel like it drains a lot faster. So that's about it. Not that many bugs though. Josh asking the real question. How have you been, Drew? You look happier than you've ever been. I do feel pretty happy. I mean, I didn't really show it that much because it's not a good look and you're not really proud of it, but throughout a lot of, the second half of 2017 and all of 2018 and the beginning of 2019, there were a lot of months in Tailosive history where we were really cutting it close. Financially, I was not being smart, and I was basically living paycheck to paycheck. And I basically looked at, what did the channel make this month? Oh, that's my budget. That's how much I can spend. And luckily, I never went into any debt. I never carried a balance on my credit card. I would never do that. I was never like borrowing money from people. In fact, I was loaning money to a couple of my friends at the time, which in hindsight, I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, it was not wise financially, and it just felt like I was running and the ground was falling beneath me everywhere we were going with the network. And I'm very grateful that I eventually found some stability and made some wise choices that were hard. It was really hard to accept the idea of like maybe leaving the office behind or not working in a big space anymore, because it just felt like that was moving backwards. It was like, hell, well, the channel's still doing good. Why would we downsize? Why would we downscale things? And in the end, it just ended up making sense. It was like, you have to take a few steps backwards to take bigger steps forward. Because if I kept renting these big offices and I kept this big overhead over the network, it was going to prevent me from, long-term growth. And now we're in a place where I feel so secure, I feel so safe, because it's like, even if YouTube fell apart, even if, like we experienced in the beginning of 2020, that was pretty scary, the 2 copyright strikes, neither of which were justified. YouTube channels were copyright striking, and it was like, oh my God, we could use the whole network. We could lose the whole network if someone gives us a 3rd copyright strike. But now since then, we've paid off the house, and we've positioned ourselves in a place where our monthly expenses are so low that we could lose YouTube and we'd be fine. I could just keep doing this full time. I would not have to go back to college. I would not have to get a minimum wage job. Definitely wouldn't go back to the Mandarin Ranch. I wouldn't have to work at Taco Bell or anything. Like, we could just be fine if YouTube didn't work out, which I'm really happy to say, because for many, many years I couldn't say that. It's not until this year that I'm able to say that. So financially, we're in a great spot, and I don't know when I'm getting a Tesla. Again, I barely drive my car as it is, so spending $40,000 on a car right now would just be kind of plain stupid. So I don't know when it'll happen. All I know is it'll happen in a time when financially we have that kind of disposable income, and I want to get there eventually, but it's not high on our priorities list. Are you getting used to the new macOS icons yet? Not really, because I'm still using Catalina mostly. I don't really use the Mac Mini much for streaming. Don't buy a car, Drew. It's not worth it. Well, let's put it this way. I will not get a loan on a car. I've never done it before, and I never plan to. I think that's royally stupid. Some people do it because they drive more than I do. So no hate, no criticism. Maybe that was too harsh. I'm not hating on people who get loans on their cars. I just think it's a bad idea, because a car universally is probably the most expensive thing that depreciates over time that people will buy. And if we do buy a Tesla someday, it'll be because we can buy it outright with cash, no debt, and we have a solid emergency fund, and we also have a bunch of money invested in the stock market, which, again, we're doing. We're trying to keep up with a monthly amount that we're investing per month. Yeah, a Tesla is basically just a really fun tech toy. You're right, because I have a car. It works. It drives as far as we need it to. There's really not a reason to buy a new car other than like, hey, our air conditioning's acting up again. This happened a few years ago, and now it's happening again. So we go to the car shop. We spend an extra $60 on fixing the air conditioner, and then it works. There's not really a good reason to buy a brand new car at $40,000-$50,000 just because our air conditioner's not working. It doesn't make sense. And it's also the tricky thing about buying a Tesla is it doesn't really fall into the same compartment as, well, Drew, you buy the new iPhone every year, you buy new iPads, you buy new Macs that come out. Those things actually will pay for themselves, and you can make that argument pretty fairly. Like, the videos I will make about the iPhone 12 will pay for the iPhone 12, because in the end, I'll sell my 11 Pro Max for probably $600-$700, or I'll trade it in. And that means that the next iPhone I buy, in the end, to me, will only cost like $600-$700. And with the series of videos I'll make about the iPhone 12, it'll easily rake up more money than that. Whereas the argument that the Tesla will pay for itself, some YouTubers try to make that logic work, and sadly to me, after the success of Tailosive EV, you can't really make that argument. It really doesn't work. I mean, some people would make that argument because they're like, well, I bought a Tesla and here I'm making videos about it, and now I've made enough videos about it that, I mean, it takes a long time, but eventually you could make enough money off of a series of videos that you could say, well, the Tesla paid for itself. But the problem is, look at Tailosive EV. Okay, that channel is actually doing really well. The subscriber count comparative to how many views it gets on a daily basis is really inaccurate. Like Tailosive Tech very rarely gets 200,000 views on a video. That almost never happens. But it has 200,000 subscribers. And as you get bigger, that's more of a, you know, that's more of a expected thing of your channel. When it gets older, you very rarely get, you know, PewDiePie rarely gets 100 million views on a video too, but he has 100 million subs. Tailosive EV is averaging like 20,000 to 30,000 views daily, and it only has 24,000 subscribers. So it's getting more views than a lot of channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers, which is cool. And what I've discovered with the EV space is that when you brand your channel as automotive instead of science and technology, the CPMs are actually much higher, because auto companies are willing to spend a lot more money on commercials than tech companies. It's kind of weird how that works, but it does. So because I now have a tech channel getting CPMs from the tech companies, Samsung, Google, advertising on YouTube, now I'm getting CPMs from automotive companies. That has really diversified our AdSense and put the channel in a great position, and that's with no Tesla at all. In fact, I've not even rented and reviewed a Tesla on Tailosive EV, and it's still doing great. It's still performing wonderfully. So it's very difficult now with me. What are the videos that are doing well on Tailosive EV? They're all just news. They're just covering, here's what Tesla's doing, here's how Tesla's thinking, you know, here's why the Cybertruck is good, here's the design changes they're bringing to the Cybertruck. You do not need to own a Tesla to make content about them. And I didn't think that for the longest time. For the longest time, I was like, I don't think we should make an EV channel unless I have an electric car. But what happened was the Cybertruck video on the Tailosive Tech channel took off and became my most viewed video of all time. And that just felt weird because, honestly, there were all these people now watching the Tailosive Tech channel and all these people subscribing, and now they're going to hear about the iPhone smart battery case. It just felt wasteful to have all this traffic and all these people watching the Cybertruck video and then being like, ooh, this is cool, I want to subscribe to this guy. And then all I talk about is smartphones and Apple. They'd be like, wait, what? Why did I sub to this guy? So I was like, okay, the demographics are different enough. There's enough of an audience here. There's enough to talk about. Tesla's doing things I wasn't expecting, and there's so much hype for this company. Okay, I can make a channel about just them in electric vehicles. And that's proven to be a very successful side gig, so that really worked out. Yeah, Graham Stephan's clickbait on the $0 Tesla. A lot of people have made those videos. I mean, there's some logic to it, but overall, it just really doesn't hold up when you can make a ton of money off of Tesla just by talking about them. So it doesn't really line up to the point that, like, yeah, if I buy the latest iPhone every year, that'll pay for itself. You won't really get 50 unless your channel's just huge. You know, there's MKBHD out there, and there's, I don't know, Unbox Therapy. Maybe channels like that, you could buy a car and make the money back off of the videos. But most of us are not Marquez. Most of us are not Unbox Therapy. No, Graham Stephan does a lot of clickbait. The $78 a month Tesla in the first year. Yeah, no, there's a lot of fudging of the numbers you got to do to get to that point. It's not that simple. Especially when you get into the write-off things. Is you're counting profit off of taxes you don't have to pay. It's like, you don't get that money. You're just not paying money to the government. That doesn't that doesn't mean profit. So yeah, I think there's a chance that I'll be able to prove you can pay for a Tesla just by talking about them for long enough without buying the car. But I was thinking about doing a finance video off this recently, but my most viewed video of all time was about the Cybertruck. That video got a little over 1 million views. I've only had that happen once. That was exciting. That was cool. That video made a little over $5,000. Okay, to give you guys some comparison. I'm okay disclosing this information now because you guys probably saw the video about how much I make in a year. So if 1 million views on a video gives you $5,000, I mean, that's a decent chunk towards a Tesla. But if you're spending 40 to 50 grand on one, you need 10 million worth of views with decent CPMs, which is not easy to get, especially when your channel's not, you know, Marquez sized. So yeah, you can't exactly. I don't think a Tesla delivery day video is going to make your money back that quickly. I'm not working on more vids for the space channel. I wish I had more time in the day too. I would really like to someday, but I got to pick my battles. It's kind of like Elon, you know. He's got a lot of companies he's working on, but he's really got to focus on two. And right now, my Tesla and SpaceX is Tailosive Tech and Tailosive EV. That's mainly what I'm focused on right now. Let's see. Can I see a second year numbers, please? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Would you rather have 50 subs and 55 views a video, or 150 subs and 40 views a video? Subs don't mean anything. It's really like, it doesn't impact your revenue. It doesn't impact how much Google pays you. So yeah, in my opinion, views matter more. I would much rather have a channel with little subscribers and lots of views than a channel with tons of subscribers. In fact, I think it actually hurts you. It can hurt your channel. In my opinion, it looks kind of embarrassing when your channel has a ton of subscribers and not that many views, because it means all those people are being notified when you post a video and they're still not watching. What does that say about how interesting your videos are? Which is why I would say Tailosive Tech probably has too many subscribers. There's a lot of inactive people on that channel that aren't clicking. Because like I said, very rarely do we hit 200,000 views on a video, but there's 200,000 subs. So I wish we could purge, you know, inactive subs and just be like, hey, get rid of all these get rid of all these subs that aren't doing anything. Wow, thank you, Josh. Just super chatted 20 bucks. Thinking about the new F-150 hybrid with the excellent range. With how things are for me, it makes sense. Totally understand living paycheck to paycheck, and it sucks. Finally, with the new job, I'm debt-free and have emergency fund. Yay! Congratulations, Josh. That's awesome. You're debt-free. Good to hear. I wish there was a button on YouTube. Is there? No, there isn't. I want there to be a refund button on Super Chats. YouTube should let you click the options and just hit, like, send that money back to the donor, because that's what I would do right now if I could. But thank you for the Super Chat. I haven't checked out much of the F-150 hybrid, but that's cool. You technically own a house, so not debt-free. Oh, okay. Yeah, I noticed that. I think there's a lot of confusion out there with the term financial independence. Some people get it a little backwards, but that's a good kind of debt to have. As long as you've got a plan on how to pay off the house, then it's fine. Yeah, I'm not crazy into Ford, so I don't plan on talking to them. We roughly followed Dave Ramsey's steps, but not exactly, not super precisely. Thoughts on the drama today? There's drama? What drama? Let's see. You're still using the titanium watch, or did you send it back? No, I sent that back. I'm still on the Series 4. I've had this since 2018. It still works. It still runs great. Plan to pay off the house. There you go. As long as you got a strategy in place. There's nothing wrong with working on paying off a house because you're probably going to get that money back later. That's the nice thing about a mortgage, is that, like, instead of rent, where you're sending hundreds of thousands of dollars off to nowhere and you're never going to get it back, with a house, yeah, there is some interest on that mortgage. You will end up paying a lot of interest, but that property value will go up most likely over time. And when you sell it, you'll probably end up making money back. Most people do, as long as you hold onto it for a long time. Are your real estate taxes high? Not really. Not bad. I think it ends up being like, I was trying to think of the last month. I think it's under $200 a month after you divvy it up throughout the entire year. So, wow, Chris Norton super chatted to have some cash. Thank you, Chris. That's very nice of you. Where's that refund button? Come on, I need that refund. So yeah, you don't pay your property taxes monthly, at least where I am. It usually happens like once or twice a year, but once we factor in county tax, property tax, all that, it ends up being less than $200 a month. So basically it means that the only way it would have been cheaper for us to rent instead of buy is if we rented someplace for under $200 a month, which is not possible, especially with the size of the property and the size of the house we have. It would not have been under $200 a month. So yeah, there are still taxes you got to pay, but it's not bad. Definitely not bad, especially considering the value of our property has already shot up a bit since we bought it. Yeah, that's way cheaper than rent. The thing that kills you in California is the state income tax. Yeah, it's not fun, but it's also not as bad as some people make it out to be. My parents are moving out of state as of recently. They're planning on moving out of California, and they're like, finally, we won't have state income tax anymore. But what I've noticed is that states that don't have state income tax usually have higher property taxes. So the state or the government is going to get their money from you one way or another. I mean, some states are obviously better than others, but when it comes to how much tax I have to pay each year, most of it is still federal. State, yeah, it's there, but it's not as much as the federal taxes. So like if we decided to move out of California to a place that doesn't have state income tax, it would still take probably 5 to 10 years for the cost of the, maybe not 5, maybe more like 2 to 3. The process of moving is expensive. You know, finding a place and getting readjusted to the area, and the money you spend on moving everything and buying new stuff and stuff you got to sell and leave behind. All that money you got to spend, and by the time the state income tax has been saved, it doesn't really, it's a little bit there, but yeah, I'm not willing to move. I don't think we plan on moving. But Aluminum super chatted $10. Thank you very much. And he said, we need UBI as we transition to the future of jobs. $1,000 a month. Elon Musk knows this and endorsed a probable UBI candidate. AI is going to take up around 40% of jobs in the future. Wow, that's a lot. I don't know. I know some people are very passionate about that. I think there might be some negative consequences of it, though, that we should also weigh out. I think there would be some massive inflation if we just started giving everybody $1,000 a month. I think the price of everything would start to shoot up fairly quickly. And, you know, if you don't believe it will, I don't think you know landlords and you don't know companies that well. Because if they knew every single citizen now had an extra $1,000 in their pocket each month, you betcha the prices of stuff is going to go up. And you can try to pass laws to prevent that, but it can happen naturally. If a landlord ups his rent on a new property and just says, well, you know, normally we would charge $1,000 a month for this, but now we're going to do $1,500. And hey, that's more and more people have $1,000 extra this month, so why not upcharge? And I think that there could be some unintentionally negative consequences of UBI. I see the benefits. I'm not saying it's a horrible idea. I just think that diving into some of the pros slash negatives could be an interesting discussion, because there's a lot of people in my personal life that I know that could definitely live off 1,000 a month. I could. I'm one of them. But we made some smarter, harder financial decisions to get to that point. But I just mean, like, I know some people that could, and I don't know if you want a society that encourages that. Do you want a society that lets it be okay to just not do anything with your life, not contribute to society, and just live off the $1,000? You don't want that happening, because you want people contributing and you want people producing and helping everyone. I don't know if I agree that AI is going to take up 40% of jobs in the future. I guess it depends on what we define as the future. 1,000 years from now, sure, I could see that. But 100 years from now, I don't know. I still see a lot of jobs requiring people. And there's still a lot of industries out there that are hiring a lot of people these days. So I'm not convinced that we're going to reach a point. AI and technology is going to get rid of a lot of jobs, but there's also a bunch of jobs that are still going to be available. Dustin Super Chat, it says, who is more theoretically sound, Paul Washer, John MacArthur, Joel Osteen? I'm sorry, I don't know any of them. I'm not very political myself, so I don't have much thoughts on it. But thank you for the Super Chat. I'm sorry, I wish I knew who those people were. Let's take money from people, then just give it back to them. That's a scam. Yeah, I mean, there's more to it than that. Like, I think the stimulus check was a good move, considering the pandemic and what was happening. There were people that really needed that, and there were people that needed a lot more than the stimulus check because of the crisis we were going through. But I don't know. I see some benefits to UBI, but I also see some negatives. And I'm heavy middle on a lot of things, so I'm I'm just like, man, I could just see a ton of people that just crash at home and do nothing for the rest of their lives if they knew they were getting $1,000 a month for the rest of their lives. I feel like what would happen, this is my personal prediction, I could be wrong, and also keep in mind I'm no expert on this. I'm a 22-year-old guy who talks about iPhones for a living. I'm not an expert. Please don't get offended if you disagree with me. It's just, we're spitballing here. But here's what I think would happen. If we started providing $1,000 a month to everybody, some people, yes, it would ease the financial burden that we have, especially in the poverty line. That would be nice. But then you'd also have a bunch of people that decide they don't have to work as hard. And there'd be a bunch of people that'd be like, okay, I can just go part-time. And then the price of things will shoot up, because companies will be like, hey, everybody's got $1,000 extra a month. We can charge twice what we used to charge. iPhone prices can go up. Food prices can go up. Car prices can go up, because everybody's got an extra 12 grand of disposable income every year. So prices of everything goes up. And then we're back where we started, because now the people that were in the poverty line are still in the poverty line because the prices of things have gone up. So now we're going to pass legislation to increase UBI. Now $1,000 a month isn't cutting it. So this isn't going to be enough for me to live off of, or this isn't easing my financial burden, so I need $2,000 a month now. Okay, so now we passed legislation, $2,000 a month. And then the companies start increasing the prices, and it just keeps going and going and going. So that's what I think a negative unintended consequence could be. Again, I'm no financial expert. I don't have any college experience. I'm an idiot in so many departments. So please, don't feel insulted or crazy about my theories. I just personally, it might be anecdotal, but where I live, there is a ton of people that would just do nothing with their lives if they could get that much money per month for free. Chris Norton donated more. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. The Legend 27 Super Chat says, what do you think of the Minecraft Nether update? It's fun. I've been doing a lot of it on Talos of Gaming. I enjoy it. It's fun. UBI equals money amount will never be a month. People will always say they need more. Yeah, I personally see that way too. I just feel like when, essentially it's kind of from The Incredibles. Remember when Syndrome said, you know, I'm going to sell my invention so that everybody is super, and if everybody's super, no one will be? It's kind of a more realistic version of that. If you give $1,000 a month to everybody, it's almost like there isn't $1,000 a month now to everybody, because everybody got it, which can cause rapid inflation. So that causes the price of everything to go up. You know, it just becomes a vicious cycle. And I also feel like you shouldn't give $1,000 a month to literally everybody. because there's definitely some people who don't need it. I'm a good example. I don't think the government should send me money just because a law was passed. you know, um, all the money we got from our stimulus check just went right back to the government. I think there was a UBI study, and the majority of people used it well. It is something that I don't know much about, though. That's the thing. You can't really get a good study on it, though, because if you do a study and you just do it with a limited amount of people, you don't experience the negatives of what happens when everybody has it. Giving a small group, like if we just picked out 100 people from the population and said, let's give them $1,000 a month, they don't experience the inflation because not everybody has it. So companies aren't going to change prices. Landlords won't change prices because that's just a small subset of people. But if everybody had it, you would have different circumstances, and I think businesses and governments and landlords and rent and housing, everything would change very quickly. Universal basic income or just stimulus checks? We were talking about UBI earlier. I think UBI is necessary in times of crisis like the pandemic we're in. Other countries are doing it and they're fine. Yeah, I think short term it won't be too negative. It does cause a little bit of inflation, but not much. I was more talking about long-term effects, like 10 years of UBI, which is a lot of money to be just giving out to everybody. Do you feel more comfortable talking about these issues than before? As we're getting more into finance, I guess, yeah, I'm more comfortable talking about it. Something for nothing is never a good idea. Well, that's the thing, is it comes from somewhere. And there will be consequences of that, I think. I don't know. It just seems too simple to work that easily. I don't know. I'm hesitant to anyone who says, well, all we'll do is just give everybody money, and then they'll all be happy. It's like, is it that simple? Where's this money coming from? How does the financial climate we're in change if everybody has an extra grand? What do you think that would do to the real estate market? What would happen to mortgage rates and in housing if everybody had an extra $1,000 a month in the long term? Yeah, I don't think UBI is political either. It's just kind of an interesting theory. I would love to talk to someone with more experience and knowledge on the subject and kind of ask them these types of questions. What would happen? How would you prevent landlords from upping their rent for everybody? I'd be more in favor of UBI if we used it to replace all welfare programs, but that never happened in a million years. Yeah, I think that there'd be something. It would have to replace something else. Like if we did UBI but no Social Security, maybe. I don't know. I'm really not experienced in this subject, but I think I could get behind it easier if it was replacing all welfare programs. But I don't think people would like that. I think they would want welfare and UBI. That's a good point, except I don't think $1,000 is enough unless you're with your parents and not contributing at all. That's the thing, Joey. $1,000 a month is very different in the Bay Area compared to, Kansas, which is the trick with universal basic income is like, I'm not in a heavy populated area. I'm not in a place that's really expensive to live. People say, oh, you're in California. They just assume that's LA or the Bay Area. There's so much more to California than that, and there's much cheaper places in California to live. But around here, yeah, I know people for a fact. I know people living off $1,000 a month, and they could do it pretty much forever if they wanted to. There's people I know that would basically just eat, watch TV, go to movies now and again, and just spend their life doing nothing, and they could get by with $1,000 a month. Obviously, if you're in a populated area, New York City, LA, Bay Area, Chicago, no, I agree, $1,000 isn't enough. But there are certain places in the U.S., quite a few, with cost of living low enough that it would encourage people. And it's not just about people not doing anything. It would enable a lot of people to work less. It would enable a lot of people to just be like, I'll just work part-time, or I'll never aspire to do something greater or do something that more people find of value because I'm getting $1,000 a month, so why try? How about a UBI that's regulated locally so the amount of money given varies based on simple calculation of the income levels of the regions? I'd be in favor of that if we were heavily considering UBI, yeah. I don't think it should be a flat amount for everybody in the country. $1,000 in the middle of nowhere, Texas versus Manhattan is like $10 to $100. Yeah, exactly. Um, let's see. I really wish politics wasn't controversial. I'd love to have political discussions, but it usually turns into an argument. Yeah, people get toxic about it really quickly, so I have to avoid it. But universal health care would do more people more good. Take that. 200 slash a month I give to health insurance and give that to Medicare for all. Yeah, health care is messy. I haven't seen, honestly, there's all kinds of problems with both universal and non-universal health care. I don't like the system we have in the US as I'm getting into paying for my own medical bills and having to cover my health insurance. It's not fun. And looking at plans and how expensive they are. It's not a good system. But I'm also doing a bunch of research on countries that have universal health care, and there's a bunch of issues that come along with that too. So it all sucks. It's all there's negatives to both, and there's positives to both. Best case scenario is a little bit of both, I'd say. Something, certain if you fall within a certain income bracket, providing health care for those people, I'm absolutely in favor of. But at the same time, private health care for those who want it. But the way the private industry is handling healthcare has a bunch of ways it can be abused and things I'm not happy with. So it's really not a good system. I've looked into both, and they both seem broken. It's kind of complicated though when you think about it, because it's like in the old days when there wasn't much of a medical industry, if you got sick or something bad happened to you, basically you just died. It's just like, hey, you're not going to make it. But now, thankfully, I mean, this is kind of the hindsight and the good news of the 20th century is the revolution of medicine, and the medical industry has made massive advancements in regards to technology. Let's not talk about the finance of it, but the fact that surgery and the advancements of like autonomous technology, like surgeries are being all done by robots now, and the chemo treatment and the advancements in tech and medicine, the fact that I'm a guy with psoriasis and I can just for free get these little injections and it goes away. There's been some massive advancements in the medical industry, and that doesn't cost nothing. These innovations in these companies that are making new technology and new surgery equipment and that make all these new advancements possible, they're not doing it for free, and they shouldn't do it for free. You shouldn't just spend millions of dollars on new MRIs and surgery and x-ray practices and just get paid nothing. I think the people that are making advancements in technology, they should be getting lots of money. They should be paid and reimbursed for that. In fact, we want to reward those members of society for coming up with new ways of healing people and preventing people from getting sick. But at the same time, man, there's so much like variable expenses that come with it, and the idea that someone who's in a unlucky spot in life gets hurt and now they're just stuck in debt with medical bills, and the amount of extreme debt people have to go in from hospitals, it's insane. Hospital bills, it's crazy. So I don't have a good answer for that, honestly. Any politician that says that they can fix the medical industry, I would just say, I don't believe you. I've seen certain industries work better than others, but they're in much smaller populations. Doing something for a smaller country is a lot easier than doing it for a large country, because you have more variables, you have more outliers. So I don't know. It's not easy. There's not an easy solution. Chris Norton, thank you for the super chat. Do you work every day on making content? I work 5.5 days. I usually take one day completely off, which is typically a Friday. Typically Friday I don't do anything, and then Saturday I work a half day, and then Sunday through Thursday I work full time. Yeah. Let's see. Universal health care is a problem. 50% of your income taken by the government, so you don't have to pay a few hundred, a few thousands for medical care. It's cheaper to just buy the stuff. No, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's 50. I don't think it's quite that high, but I have heard that issue with a lot of universal healthcare proposals, is that they involve a lot of people who don't need to be paying for more medical expenses, but there are people coming up with new ways to help humans, and people talk about stupid flip phones as our future. I know. I mean, It's not as flashy, but yeah, there's the technology innovations going on in the medical industry are insane, and you want those people working on it to be reimbursed, but at the same time, some countries have universal health care and free higher education, but people are taxed way higher, so you can barely live on your own. So you really heavily rely on the government. That's true. The thumbnail was taken on my iPhone. Yeah. There's a lot of countries that can make it work. I'm not saying universal health care is always bad. I'm just saying that the countries where it works are typically much smaller than the U.S. And doing something for a smaller number of people is easier than a larger number. Let's see. I'll sell my iPhone probably to my dad. Some countries like Switzerland also discourage home ownership. Oof. Hey, Amsterdam, how's it going? No universal health care would get the money distributed from the rich more money and from the poor less. You'd hope so. Alumni Super Chatted says it can be financed by VAT and make Amazon pay. They pay zero in federal taxes currently. Look at Andrew Yang platform. I know about Yang, but it's not exactly true. It's kind of a clickbaity headline that Amazon pays zero in taxes. They paid zero corporate tax, but they have paid billions in other. They're writing off all of their losses. Basically, it's completely legal. Amazon lost tons and tons of money when they first started that they're able to write off those losses for years to come, but there's still billions of dollars they pay in property taxes, and other federal taxes. There's a corporate tax they're avoiding, but they still spend billions. Amazon will pay more in taxes than you and I will ever pay. It's just a specific type of tax they don't pay. But the UBI is a lot more expensive than people realize. And big corporations and big companies have the best lawyers in the world, and they can find loopholes on things. And state taxes. Amazon doesn't exactly pay $0 in taxes. There's a certain type of tax they pay $0 in because they've written it off from all the losses they've made over the years, but they still pay quite a bit. Let's see. The money comes from somewhere. Why should the people at the top of the food chain be punished for working hard, but the people at the bottom are rewarded for doing nothing? I know, it's messy. There's good and bad rich people, and there's not huge incentive for you to make more and succeed more if the government's just going to take more and more and more of it. So that's a negative impact. But at the same time, yeah, you don't want people on the lower end brackets to be starving or stuck in medical debt. You want to help them. There's not an easy answer. That's why they're political. But thank you for the super chat. I love the discussions when we can all be nice to each other when we disagree. Yeah, I hope we can do that more often. But anyway, thank you guys for the super chats. I got to get going. I realized I'm going over my clock here. I bet my wife is wondering what I'm doing. But thank you all for watching. I appreciate that. I respect your ideas and your opinions, and appreciate the donations. Have a good one, guys. Happy end of June.